I'm Leah, 29, and I'm currently sitting in a beachfront villa in Bali while my phone explodes with notifications. The wedding hashtag, my sister spent months perfecting, completely overshadowed by my viral post. A reporter from Vogue just called. Apparently, they're pulling my sister's wedding feature because my story is more compelling. My mother's latest voicemail was just sobbing. And my father? He finally remembered my birthday. 3 weeks too late. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Growing up in the Walsh family meant living with the unspoken understanding that my achievements would never quite measure up. I was the middle child, sandwiched between my older brother Mark, the successful surgeon, and my younger sister Emma, the golden child who could do no wrong. My parents never missed Mark's medical school graduations or Emma's dance recitals. But my art shows? My promotions? Those were always met with polite nods and, "That's nice, dear," before the conversation inevitably shifted back to my siblings. I made peace with it. Or so I thought. I had built a successful career as a graphic designer at a boutique agency in Chicago, created a comfortable life for myself in a cozy apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, and surrounded myself with friends who actually remembered important dates. My birthday was coming up, my 30th, a milestone I had mixed feelings about. 30 felt significant, the official threshold into proper adulthood. Part of me still hoped that maybe, just maybe, this would be the year my family would make an effort. The week before my birthday, I met my friend Alex for drinks at our favorite rooftop bar. The early summer evening was perfect. The Chicago skyline glittering against the darkening sky as we sipped our cocktails. "So, big plans for the big 3-0? Alex asked, swirling her martini. I shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "Not really. Dinner with you guys on Saturday, I guess." Alex raised an eyebrow. "That's it? No family celebration?" "You know how they are," I said, aiming for a light tone but missing by a mile. "Emma's wedding is in 2 weeks, so everyone's focused on that. It's fine." "It's not fine," Alex said firmly. "It's your 30th birthday, Leah. That matters." I looked away, watching a boat cut across the lake. "Not to them, apparently." Alex reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "Then we'll make it matter. We're going all out on Saturday. Fancy dinner, dancing, the works. 30 deserves to be celebrated properly." I smiled gratefully, but the weight in my chest remained. Why was it that the people who were supposed to love me the most seemed to notice me the least? The day before my birthday, I received a call from my mother while I was at work, putting the finishing touches on a brand campaign. My heart lifted when I saw her name on the screen. Maybe they hadn't forgotten after all. "Lee, darling," she said, her voice brimming with excitement. "Emma's wedding planner just confirmed the flower arrangements. They're flying in peonies from Japan. Can you believe it? $40,000 just for flowers. But you know your sister. Only the best will do." I pinched the bridge of my nose, fighting disappointment. "That's great, Mom. Hey, any plans for tomorrow?" "Tomorrow?" She paused. "Oh, Emma and Robert are having their menu tasting, and your father and I are joining them. The caterer is bringing in a chef from Paris just for the consultation. It's all very exclusive. Why? Did you need something?" I swallowed hard. No reason. Just checking in." "Well, I should go. We're meeting with the calligrapher in 20 minutes. Emma wants handwritten place cards for all 300 guests. And wait until you see the custom monogram they've designed. It's going to be embossed. On everything. Even the cocktail napkins. Talk soon, Henny." The line went dead, and I stared at my phone, a familiar heaviness settling in my chest. Not even a hint of recognition about my birthday. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter. I was an adult, after all. Birthdays were just another day. But when I woke up on the morning of my 30th birthday, I couldn't help but check my phone immediately. No texts from my family. No missed calls. No emails. My best friend Alex sent a gif of dancing cats at midnight, and my coworkers had planned a small lunch celebration. But from my family? Nothing. I went through the motions of my morning routine: shower, coffee, outfit selection with a growing knot in my stomach. By the time I arrived at the office, where my desk had been decorated with balloons and cards from my colleagues, the knot had transformed into a hard ball of resentment. "Happy birthday, Lee." My team greeted me with hugs and well wishes. My boss had ordered my favorite pastries from the French bakery down the street, an extravagance that would normally delight me. "Thanks, everyone," I said, forcing a smile. "This is so sweet of you." My work friend Zoe handed me a beautifully wrapped package. "It's not much, but we wanted you to know how much we appreciate you." Inside was a leather-bound sketchbook with my initials embossed on the cover, something I had admired in a boutique months ago but hadn't bought because of the price. The fact that Zoe had remembered, had noticed something I wanted in passing, made the silence from my family all the more deafening. The day dragged on. I kept my phone close, checking it perhaps too often, waiting for that belated realization, the apologetic text, the rushed phone call. But by the time I blew out the candles on the small cake my colleagues had bought, I had accepted the truth. They had completely forgotten. After work, Alex took me to dinner at an upscale restaurant overlooking the river. We were joined by a small group of close friends who raised glasses of champagne and toasted to my new decade. "To Lee," Alex said, her glass glinting in the candlelight. "Who makes the world more beautiful with her art, and our lives more beautiful with her friendship. Happy 30th, love." The evening was lovely, filled with good food, laughter, and genuine affection. But as I returned to my empty apartment just after midnight, the contrast between the warmth of my friendships and the indifference of my family felt sharper than ever. That night, as I sat alone in my apartment with a glass of wine and the remains of my office birthday cake, my phone finally lit up with a family notification. My heart leapt, but it wasn't a birthday wish. It was an email from Emma with the subject line, "Final wedding reminder and schedule." I clicked it open to find a detailed itinerary for her wedding, now just a week away. The email was addressed to all family members and the bridal party, outlining our responsibilities for her perfect day. Mine included picking up her in-laws from the airport, helping with welcome bags, and an early morning hair appointment before the ceremony. The email concluded with, "I know you're all as excited as I am for the most important day of my life. Love you all so much for making this special for me." I read it twice, then set my phone down and walked to the window of my apartment, looking out at the city lights. The most important day of her life. And my milestone birthday hadn't even registered as worth acknowledging. Something shifted in me then. A lifetime of being overlooked crystallized into a single, clear thought. I didn't have to participate in this anymore. I didn't have to smile and nod and pretend it didn't hurt. I didn't have to show up for people who couldn't be bothered to show up for me. I picked up my phone and drafted a simple response. "I'm afraid I won't be able to attend or assist with any wedding activities. Something's come up. Congratulations to Emma and Robert." The response was immediate. My phone rang within minutes, my mother's name flashing on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the texts. First from my mother, then my father, then Emma herself. All variations of, "What do you mean you can't come?" and "This isn't funny, Lee," and "You can't do this to your sister." My mother's voicemail was tight with controlled anger. "Leah, call me back immediately. Whatever little game you're playing needs to stop right now. Your sister is in tears. This is completely unacceptable behavior." My father's text was more direct. "You will be at your sister's wedding. This isn't optional. Call your mother." Emma's message was the longest. "Are you kidding me right now? After everything we've done for you, After all the times I've been there for you, you're going to bail on the most important day of my life with some vague excuse? What could possibly be more important than my wedding? You're being incredibly selfish and immature. Fix this. Now. I turned my phone off and opened my laptop instead. If I wasn't going to be at the wedding, I needed to be somewhere else. Somewhere far away. Somewhere that would make me happy on my terms. 3 hours and several $1,000s later, I had booked a 10-day trip to Bali, departing the day before the wedding. The cost made me wince. Nearly $8,000 for the last-minute flights and a private villa with a pool. But I had savings, and something about this felt necessary. Like I was finally standing up for myself in a way I never had before. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and messages. I scrolled through them with a detached sort of curiosity. They followed a pattern. Initial disbelief, then anger, then attempts at guilt. My mother, you've always been selfish, but this takes the cake. My father, your sister is devastated. How could you do this to the family? Emma, I can't believe you're trying to ruin my wedding. I will never forgive you for this. Not one of them mentioned my birthday. I finally responded to my mother's latest voicemail with a text. I turned 30 yesterday. None of you remembered. Again. I'm taking a trip instead. Enjoy the wedding. The responses came fast and furious. Defensive. Deflecting. My mother claimed she had been planning to call but got caught up with wedding details. My father said birthdays aren't a big deal at our age. Emma sent a long paragraph about how I was being incredibly petty and how a birthday doesn't compare to a wedding. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I went to work, handed in a request for vacation time, and began planning what to pack for Bali. The next few days were a blur of preparations and continued attempts from my family to change my mind. My brother Mark, who had been notably silent until then, finally called while I was shopping for beach essentials. "Lee," he said when I picked up, his voice that careful, neutral tone he used when speaking to difficult patients. "I'm trying to understand what's going on here." "I'm not going to the wedding," I said simply, examining a sundress on the rack. "Because we forgot your birthday?" He sounded incredulous. "Come on, that's a bit much, don't you think?" "It's not just the birthday, Mark. It's everything. It's always being the afterthought, the one whose accomplishments don't matter, whose time and feelings are expendable. I'm tired of it." He was quiet for a moment. "I get that. I do. But Emma's wedding, Leah. This is huge. You're going to regret not being there." "Maybe," I conceded. "But I think I'd regret going more. Mom and Dad are furious. Emma's crying all the time. It's chaos." "Did any of you remember my birthday?" I asked, abandoning the dress and moving to the swimwear section. Another pause. "No," he admitted. "And I'm sorry about that. Really. But does this punishment fit the crime?" "It's not a punishment, Mark. It's a choice. For once, I'm choosing myself." He sighed. "I don't agree with what you're doing, but I think I understand it. For what it's worth, happy belated birthday." It wasn't worth much. Not after 30 years of being forgotten. But it was something. "Thanks, Mark. Where are you going instead?" he asked. "Bali." "Wow. Solo trip?" "Yeah. Well, be safe, I guess." After we hung up, I sat in the department store cafe for a while, trying to process my feelings. Part of me worried I was overreacting, that I was sabotaging family relationships over what they would always see as a petty grievance. But a stronger part knew this was about more than just a forgotten birthday. This was about patterns, about value, about respect. And for once, I wasn't going to cave. That evening, I started packing, carefully selecting lightweight clothes for the tropical climate, making lists of essentials I still needed to buy. The methodical process calmed me, helped me feel more in control. until my doorbell rang just after 9. I opened it to find my mother standing there, looking both angry and exhausted. "We need to talk," she said, brushing past me into the apartment. I closed the door and turned to face her. "There's nothing to talk about. I've made my decision. Do you have any idea what you're doing to this family? To your sister?" She paced my living room, gesturing wildly. "She's devastated, Lee. This is supposed to be the happiest time of her life, and you're ruining it because we missed your birthday? It's not just. Do you know how childish this looks? How selfish? Emma has put years into planning this wedding. Years! And you're willing to throw away your relationship with her over this?" "I didn't throw away anything," I said quietly. "I made a choice about how I want to spend my time. And yes, the forgotten birthday was the last straw, but this isn't about that. This is about years of being treated like I don't matter." My mother stopped pacing and stared at me. "Don't matter? How can you say that? We've always supported you, always been there for you." I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Really? When? When did you ever put me first? When did my achievements ever get the same celebration as Mark's or Emma's? When did you ever remember something that was important to me without being reminded multiple times? That's not fair. You've always done the minimum," I interrupted, "and expected me to be grateful for it. While Emma gets peonies flown in from Japan and calligraphers for place cards, and you can't even remember to call me on my birthday." My mother's face hardened. "This isn't about your birthday. This is about you being jealous of your sister. It always has been." I shook my head. "No, Mom. This is about me finally realizing I deserve better than what this family has been willing to give me. I'm not going to the wedding. I'm going to Bali. My flight leaves tomorrow. If you do this," she said, her voice low and threatening, "there will be consequences. Emma may never forgive you. Your father and this isn't something we can just brush aside." I met her gaze steadily. "I understand that. I'm still going to Bali." She left without another word, slamming the door behind her. I stood in the middle of my living room, shaking but certain. The decision was made. The next morning, I boarded the flight to Bali with a strange mixture of guilt and liberation churning in my stomach. As the plane took off, lifting me away from my family and their expectations, I felt a weight lifting too. For the first time in as long as I could remember, I was putting myself first. It felt terrifying. It felt necessary. It felt right. The journey was long: Chicago to Los Angeles to Tokyo, Tokyo to Denpasar with hours of layovers in between. By the time I arrived in Bali, I was exhausted, my body clock completely confused, but my resolve was intact. I stepped out of the airport into humid air that smelled of flowers and exhaust, immediately surrounded by taxi drivers offering their services. I found the driver my villa host had arranged, a smiling man named Wayan, who loaded my luggage into his car and handed me a cold bottle of water. "First time in Bali?" he asked as we navigated the chaotic traffic. "Yes," I replied, watching the vibrant streetscapes pass by. Motorbikes reeved through cars. Street vendors sold colorful fruits and snacks. Temples appeared between modern buildings. "Alone? No husband? No boyfriend?" I smiled. "Just me." He nodded approvingly. "Good time to find yourself. Bali is good for that." My villa wasn't ready yet, so Wayan suggested dropping me at a cafe near the beach where I could wait. I found a table overlooking the ocean, ordered the coffee, and finally turned my phone back on. It immediately began buzzing with notifications. Most were from my family, increasingly frantic as the wedding day approached. But there were also several notifications from Instagram, which was unusual. I had posted a simple photo from the plane with the caption, "30 flirty and thriving in Bali, while some important events happen elsewhere. Hashtag choosing yourself, Hashtag Zola Travel, hashtag birthday trippy. The post had hundreds of likes, far more than my usual handful, and dozens of comments from strangers. Confused, I scrolled through them. Good for you! Family should remember birthdays. OMG, are you the sister who skipped the wedding? You're my hero. I read about this on Wedding Wire. Team Lee all the way. Read about what on Wedding Wire? I quickly searched my name and found a forum thread titled, Eta, Sister Skips My Wedding Because We Forgot Her Birthday. It was Emma. She had posted our private family drama on a wedding forum, painting herself as the victim of my immature tantrum and seeking validation from strangers. But the responses weren't what she had expected. Most commenters were firmly on my side, calling out my family for their treatment of me, and applauding my decision to prioritize myself. The thread had thousands of responses and had apparently been shared across multiple social media platforms. While I had been on planes and in airports, our family drama had gone viral. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I hadn't intended for any of this to become public. I had simply wanted some space, some time to myself, some acknowledgement of my worth. But now strangers on the internet were debating the moral implications of my choice, taking sides in a conflict they knew nothing about beyond Emma's biased account. My phone rang. It was Alex. "Oh my God, Lee," she said when I answered. "Have you seen what's happening?" "I just saw the Wedding Wire thread," I said, watching a group of surfers catch waves in the distance. "Is there more?" "Is there more?" "Lee, it's everywhere. BuzzFeed picked it up. There are Twitter threads. Someone made a TikTok dramatization that has millions of views, and now people are saying you deliberately sabotaged your sister's wedding day by telling paparazzi not to show up? Did you do that?" "What? No! I haven't talked to any paparazzi. I've been on planes for the last 24 hours. Well, someone did. There was supposed to be press coverage of Emma's wedding, but apparently they all canceled last minute. The rumor is that you called them and told them not to waste their time." I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. That's ridiculous. I don't even know any paparazzi or press contacts. Why would they listen to me anyway? I don't know, but Emma's blaming you. She posted a tear-filled rant on Instagram about how you're not only skipping her wedding but actively trying to ruin it. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache forming. This is insane. I just wanted to take a trip for my birthday, instead of going to a wedding where I'd be treated like an employee. I never wanted this. I know, Alex said, her voice softening. For what it's worth, I think you made the right call. And apparently, so does half the internet. Hashtag Team Lee is trending. After we hung up, I sat in the cafe for a long time, trying to process what was happening. My small act of self-preservation had somehow snowballed into a public spectacle. Part of me wanted to post a clarification, to tell my side of the story properly. But another part of me, the part that had spent years being silenced and overlooked, felt a perverse satisfaction. Let them deal with the consequences of their actions for once. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. "The press really didn't show up. Emma's freaking out. Did you actually call them?" I typed back, "No. I've been traveling for 24 hours. I don't know any press people." His response came quickly. "Well, someone did. This is getting out of hand, Leah." I didn't reply. Instead, I finished my coffee, paid the bill, and took a taxi to my villa. The property was even more beautiful than the pictures had suggested, a private compound with a small pool, outdoor shower, and a bedroom that opened onto a garden filled with frangipani trees. It was peaceful, secluded, the perfect place to recover from both jet lag and family drama. I spent the rest of the day sleeping off my exhaustion. When I woke up, it was early evening in Bali, an early morning of Emma's wedding day back home. I had dozens more missed calls and messages which I ignored. I wasn't going to let their drama follow me here. I ordered room service, then sat on my private patio, listening to the sound of the ocean nearby. despite everything, I felt at peace. Tomorrow, I would explore. I would swim in the ocean, try local food, maybe book a massage. I would celebrate my belated birthday properly, on my own terms. Before going to bed, I posted another photo on Instagram, the view from my patio with the caption, "Sometimes choosing yourself feels like this. Day 1 of putting myself first. Hashtag self-care, hashtag this is 30. Hashtag Zola Traveler." I woke up the next morning to discover that overnight, my Instagram following had jumped from a few hundred to over 50,000. My recent posts had been shared thousands of times. I had messages from reporters asking for interviews, from brands offering partnerships, from strangers sharing their own stories of family dynamics and difficult choices. And in the midst of it all, a text from an unknown number. "This is Melanie Chen from Vogue. We were scheduled to cover your sister Emma's wedding today, but given the compelling narrative that has emerged, we're considering pivoting to your story instead. Would you be open to an interview about setting boundaries and self-care? Please call me at your earliest convenience." I stared at the message in disbelief. Vogue? Emma had mentioned in passing that a high-end magazine would be covering her wedding, but I had assumed it was a local publication, not Vogue. No wonder she was so upset about the press not showing up. But I hadn't called them. I hadn't called anyone. Someone else must have connected the dots between Emma's wedding forum post and her upcoming magazine feature, and the story had spread from there. I didn't call Melanie back. Instead, I turned off my phone again and headed out to explore Ubud. I spent a day wandering through temples and rice terraces, eating delicious food at small local restaurants, and deliberately not thinking about what was happening on the other side of the world, where my sister's wedding was now underway. The beauty of Bali was intoxicating, the lush greenery, the intricate stone carvings adorning even the smallest buildings, the gentle smiles of the locals who greeted me with "Selamat Pagi" as I passed. I visited the sacred monkey forest, where bold macaques snatched bananas from tourists' hands. I browsed artisan markets, buying a hand-painted silk scarf and a small wooden statue of Ganesha, the remover of obstacles. For lunch, I found a tiny war-room serving traditional Balinese food nasi campur with spicy sambal, tender babi guling, and sweet black rice pudding for dessert. The flavors were complex and unfamiliar, a sensory adventure that demanded my full attention. By mid-afternoon, I had booked a traditional Balinese massage at a spa overlooking the Ayung River. As the therapist worked fragrant oils into my skin, the sounds of flowing water and jungle birds creating a natural soundtrack, I felt the last of my tension melting away. This was what my 30th birthday celebration should have been: indulgent, peaceful, centered entirely on my own pleasure and well-being. It wasn't until evening, after a particularly spectacular sunset viewed from a clifftop bar, that I turned my phone back on. Immediately, it exploded with notifications, but one caught my eye, a voicemail from my father. His voice was uncharacteristically subdued. "Leah, it's Dad. I don't know if you'll get this, but the wedding didn't go as planned." The press didn't show, which upset Emma greatly. And then, during the reception, someone showed the viral posts to some of the guests, and it became, well, uncomfortable. Many people left early. Emma is devastated. Your mother is beside herself. I know we've made mistakes. I know we forgot your birthday, and I'm sorry for that. More sorry than I can say. But this public humiliation. I never thought you capable of such cruelty. I hope whatever point you're making feels worth it. I listened to the message twice, tears welling in my eyes. Cruelty? I hadn't intended any of this. I had simply made a choice about how to spend my birthday. Everything else had spiraled beyond my control. I scrolled through my other messages and saw that hashtag Emma Walsh wedding was now trending for all the wrong reasons. There were photos from the event showing half-empty tables. Emma crying in her wedding dress, my parents looking grim as they escorted guests out. The captions were brutal. Ah? Karma's a bridesmaid who remembers birthdays, and when the golden child finally faces consequences and family drama, Walsh Wedding Edition. I felt sick. This wasn't what I wanted. I hadn't set out to ruin Emma's wedding or humiliate my family publicly. I had just wanted acknowledgement. Respect. The simple dignity of having my milestone birthday remembered. I called Mark, the only family member I felt might listen rationally. "What have you done?" he answered, his voice tight with anger. "I didn't do anything, Mark. I came to Bali. That's it. I didn't call the press. I didn't post anything inflammatory. I didn't ask for any of this attention. But you knew what skipping the wedding would do to Emma. You knew how important this day was to her. And my birthday wasn't important," I countered. 30 years of being treated like an afterthought wasn't enough reason to finally stand up for myself? He was quiet for a moment. "The wedding was a disaster," he finally said. "Emma left her own reception early, in tears. Mom and Dad are being bombarded with calls from family and friends who saw the viral posts. Someone even printed out comments from that wedding forum and left them on tables at the reception. It was cruel, Leah." "I didn't do that," I insisted. "I'm sorry the wedding was ruined, but I didn't orchestrate any of this. I just didn't go." "Your absence started all of it," he said. "And now you're what? Lounging on a beach while our family falls apart? Posting about self-care and boundaries like some kind of inspirational guru?" His words stung, partly because there was truth in them. I was in paradise while my family dealt with a public relations nightmare. But I hadn't created the nightmare. I had only created the absence. "I didn't want this to become public," I said quietly. "That was Emma's doing when she posted on that wedding forum." Mark sighed heavily. "Maybe. But you're not exactly discouraging it either, are you? Those Instagram posts, Lee? You know exactly what you're doing." Did I? I had posted vacation photos with vague captions about choosing myself. I hadn't named names, hadn't shared details, hadn't encouraged the narrative that was building online, but I also hadn't stopped it. I hadn't defended my family or clarified the situation. I had let it unfold, perhaps even taken a certain satisfaction in it. "I need to go," I said. "Tell everyone I'm sorry about how things turned out." That was never my intention. "Are you, though?" Mark asked. "Sorry, I mean. Because it seems like you got exactly what you wanted. Attention. Recognition. For once, the spotlight's on Lee instead of Emma." The accusation hit hard. Was that what this was about? Had I been so desperate for attention that I had, consciously or not, engineered this whole situation? No, I told myself. I had just wanted one birthday where I mattered. I had just wanted to be seen. "Goodbye, Mark," I said, and hung up. I spent the next few days in a strange limbo, alternating between enjoying my Balinese adventure and obsessively checking social media for updates on the family drama. The story had evolved beyond recognition, with rumors that I had deliberately sabotaged the wedding out of jealousy, that Emma had systematically bullied me our entire lives, that our parents had disowned me, that I had been disinvited from the wedding in the first place. None of it was true. All of it was compelling. The internet had taken our private pain and transformed it into entertainment. I visited the iconic Tana Lot temple, perched on a rock formation in the ocean. I learned to make traditional offerings at a workshop in a local village, weeding palm leaves into delicate baskets filled with flowers and incense. I took a cooking class, mastering the complex blend of spices that makes Balinese cuisine so distinctive. And throughout it all, my social media following continued to grow. My casual vacation photos were being analyzed for hidden meanings. My mundane captions interpreted as profound statements on family dynamics and personal growth. I had become a character in a story I hadn't written. On my 5th day in Bali, I woke up to find an email from Bud. Melanie Chen at Vogue, sent to my personal address rather than through Instagram. The subject line read, "Ah? Your story, your terms." "Dear Lee," it began, "I understand your reluctance to engage with the media given the sensitive nature of recent events. However, I believe there's value in telling your side of the story, in your own words, on your own terms. What began as a personal choice has sparked an important conversation about family dynamics, the expectation of female self-sacrifice, and the revolutionary act of setting boundaries. If you're interested in sharing your perspective, I'm offering you complete editorial control. Please consider it. Regardless of your decision, I wish you well." I read the email several times, weighing my options. Part of me wanted to continue my digital detox, to focus on my vacation and let the online storm blow over. But another part recognized the opportunity to reclaim the narrative, to explain my actions in a way that felt authentic rather than sensationalized. After careful consideration, I replied, "Ah? I appreciate your approach, Melanie. I didn't seek out this attention, and I certainly never intended to hurt my family. But since the story is already out there, perhaps there's value in clarifying what actually happened. Let's talk." We arranged a video call for the following day. In the meantime, I received my first direct communication from Emma since the wedding, a lengthy email that veered between rage and despair. "I hope you're satisfied," she wrote. "My perfect day, the day I've been planning since I was a little girl, was completely overshadowed by your selfish tantrum. Do you have any idea what it feels like to have guests whispering about you at your own wedding? To have people leaving early because they're too busy checking their phones for updates on your dramatic Bali getaway? To have Vogue cancel their feature because suddenly my wedding isn't interesting enough compared to my pathetic sister's pity party?" She continued, "You've always been jealous of me, always wanted what I had. Well, congratulations. You finally found a way to steal my spotlight. I hope it was worth destroying our family over a stupid birthday. Don't bother coming home. None of us want to see you again." Her words cut deep, not because they were true, but because they revealed how little she understood me, even after nearly 30 years as sisters. I had never wanted her spotlight. I had only wanted my own small place. In the sun, acknowledgement of my existence and worth beyond what I could do for others. I didn't respond to Emma's email. Instead, I prepared for my interview with Melanie, thinking carefully about what I wanted to say and how I wanted to present myself. This wasn't about revenge or attention-seeking. This was about finally having a voice. The next morning, I set up my laptop on the patio of my villa. The backdrop of tropical greenery and the small stone statue of Ganesha I had purchased seemed fitting beauty and the remover of obstacles. Melanie appeared on my screen, precisely on time. A stylish woman in her 40s with a sleek bob and intelligent eyes. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me, Leah," she said. "I know this must be a difficult time for you." "It's been unexpected," I acknowledged. "None of this was what I intended when I decided to skip the wedding." "Let's start there," she suggested. "What did you intend? What led to that decision?" The interview lasted over 2 hours. Melanie was thoughtful and thorough, asking about my childhood, my relationship with each family member, the patterns that had led to my breaking point. I spoke honestly, acknowledging my own role in the dynamics while also standing firm in my decision to prioritize myself. "I never called any press contacts," I emphasized. "I never tried to sabotage the wedding. I simply made a choice not to attend, a choice that felt necessary for my own well-being." "And the viral nature of the story?" Melanie asked. "How do you feel about that?" I considered the question carefully. It's surreal, uncomfortable, but also illuminating. The response suggests that my experience resonates with many people who have felt overlooked or taken for granted within their own families. That doesn't make it right that private pain became public entertainment, but perhaps some good can come from the conversation it started. What would you say to your sister now, if you could speak directly to her? I would say that I'm sorry her wedding day was affected by this situation. That was never my intention. But I'm not sorry for choosing myself, for recognizing that I deserve to be valued and remembered. I hope someday she can understand that this wasn't about taking anything away from her. It was about finally giving something to myself. And your parents? Melanie probed gently. I sighed, watching a small lizard scuttle across the wall of my villa. I would ask them to reflect on patterns they might not even realize exist. To consider why one child's milestones are celebrated while another's are forgotten. I don't think they're bad people. I think they got comfortable with a certain family dynamic, one where I was always the accommodating middle child, never making waves. When I finally did make a wave, no one knew how to handle it. Do you regret your decision? The question hung in the air for a moment. No, I said finally. I regret the pain it's caused, but not the decision itself. Sometimes necessary changes come with growing pains. This was long overdue. As we wrapped up the interview, Melanie's expression was thoughtful. Thank you for your candor, Leah. I think many people will find strength in your story. After the interview, I felt drained but somehow lighter. I had spoken my truth without vilifying my family, without seeking revenge or validation. Whatever came of the article, I had represented myself authentically. I spent the afternoon on a secluded beach, letting the warm water wash over me as I floated on my back, staring at the endless blue sky. The ocean had a way of putting things in perspective, of making human dramas seem small against its vastness. For a few precious hours, I wasn't a viral sensation who had skipped her sister's wedding. I was just a woman celebrating her 30th birthday in paradise. The next day, as I sat on the beach watching the sunset, my phone rang with an unfamiliar buzz. Number. Cautiously, I answered. Is this Lee Walsh? A man's voice asked. Yes, who's this? My name is Jordan Reeves. I'm a literary agent with Pinnacle Agency. I've been following your story, and I believe there's a powerful memoir here about family dynamics, self-worth, and the courage to prioritize your own well-being. Would you be interested in discussing a potential book deal? I nearly dropped my phone. A book deal? About my family drama? About your journey, he corrected. About the universal experience of being overlooked and finding your voice. Your story has clearly struck a chord with thousands of people. I think a thoughtful, nuanced exploration of these themes could be incredibly meaningful. My mind raced. A book would mean delving deeply into painful family history, exposing not just my perspective, but intimate details about people I still loved despite everything. It would mean making doubler. Permanent what might otherwise fade from public consciousness. It would mean choices and consequences I couldn't fully predict. I need time to think about it, I said finally. Of course, Jordan replied. Take all the time you need. This isn't a decision to rush into. But I hope you'll consider it. Your voice matters, Lee. What happened to you matters. Your voice matters. Such simple words, yet they pierced something deep within me. How long had I waited to hear that? How many birthdays had come and gone while I silently accepted that my voice, my presence, my very tool, existence was secondary? After hanging up, I walked along the shoreline, letting the warm water lap at my feet as I processed the conversation. A book. My story, told in my own words. Without the distortion of social media interpretations or sensationalized headlines. A chance to explore the complex family dynamics that had shaped me. To potentially help others feel less alone in similar situations. But at what cost to my already fractured family relationships? I was deep in thought when my phone buzzed again. A text from Alex. Just saw your interview is going to be in vogue. Proud of you for speaking your truth, Elle. How are you holding up? I typed back. Better than expected. Taking it day by day. Miss you. Miss you too. But this Bali content is giving me serious envy. That villa? Those beaches? You sure know how to throw yourself a belated birthday celebration. Her message made me smile. She was right. Despite the surrounding drama, I was having an incredible experience. The Bali trip had been an impulsive decision born of hurt, but it had transformed into something deeply meaningful, a declaration of self-worth, a space for reflection. The beginning of a new chapter. The remainder of my trip passed in a blur of experiences that felt both indulgent and necessary. I took a sunrise hike up Mount Batur, reaching the summit just as golden light spilled across the landscape. I participated in a water purification ceremony at Turna Empel Temple. The cool, sacred water washing away not just physical impurities, but emotional ones as well. I spent a day with a local artisan, learning traditional Balinese painting techniques, creating something beautiful with my own hands. Each experience felt like a gift to myself, an acknowledgement of my worth that didn't depend on external validation. For perhaps the first time in my life, I wasn't thinking about how my actions would be perceived by others, wasn't adjusting my choices to accommodate someone else's preferences or expectations. I was simply following my own desires. Moment by moment. The Vogue article was published on my 8th day in Bali, titled, "The Revolutionary Act of Choosing Yourself: How One Woman's Birthday Trip Sparked a Cultural Conversation." It presented a nuanced view of the situation, neither villainizing my family nor portraying me as a flawless hero. It explored the broader themes of family expectations, particularly those placed on women, and the often difficult path to setting healthy boundaries. The response was immediate and overwhelming. My social media followings exploded again. I received hundreds of messages from people sharing similar bird experiences, thanking me for giving voice to feelings they had struggled to articulate. There were interview requests from major networks, offers for speaking engagements, inquiries about brand partnerships centered around self-care and empowerment. In the midst of this new wave of attention, I received a text from my father. "Ah? We saw the article. Your mother and I would like to talk when you return. No pressure, just talk." It was the most neutral communication I'd received from my family since this all began. No accusations, no guilt trips, just an open door. I replied with my return date and a simple, "Okay." My last night in Bali, I sat on my patio, looking at the stars and reflecting on the extraordinary turn my life had taken. A forgotten birthday had somehow led to viral fame, professional opportunities, and a fundamental shift in how I viewed myself and my place in the world. The pain was still there, the hurt of 30 years of feeling less than, but alongside it was something new. A sense of power, of agency, of worth that came from within rather than from external validation. I posted one final photo from Bali, a simple selfie against the backdrop of the night sky, with the caption, "Heading home tomorrow with a full heart and clear boundaries. Thank you for the unexpected gifts of this journey." Hashtag choosing myself. Hashtag new chapter. The flight home was long and filled with anxiety. I had no idea what awaited me, whether the conversations with my family would bring healing or deeper wounds. But I knew I was returning different than I had left, stronger in ways I was only beginning to understand. As I exited the international arrivals area at O'Hare, rolling my suitcase behind me, I was surprised to see both my parents waiting. They stood awkwardly near the banda barrier, my mother clutching her purse with white knuckles, my father shifting his weight from foot to foot. They looked older somehow, more vulnerable than I remembered. My mother stepped forward first, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. "Lee," she said simply, and then pulled me into a tight hug. "We're so sorry." My father joined the embrace, his voice gruff with emotion. "We've been terrible parents. We never meant to make you feel less. But intentions don't matter if the impact is pain." I hadn't expected this. I had prepared for defensiveness, for blame, for continued misunderstanding of why I had made the choices I had. This immediate acknowledgement left me speechless. "Let's go home," my father said, taking my suitcase. "We have a lot to talk about." The conversation that followed at my parents' house was long and difficult. There were tears, confessions, moments of tension when old patterns threatened to reassert themselves. My mother admitted that she had always given Emma more attention because Emma seemed to need it more, to demand it more, while I had been self-sufficient from an early age. "I took your strength for granted," she said, twisting a tissue between her fingers. "I assumed you were fine because you never complained." That was unfair. My father acknowledged that he had focused more on Mark's achievements because they were in fields he understood, while my creative career had always seemed abstract to him. "I didn't know how to show pride in work I didn't fully comprehend," he explained, his voice heavy with regret. "But that's my failing, not yours." They had both read the Vogue article multiple times, they told me, and it had forced them to see our family dynamics through new eyes. The public nature of the situation, while painful, had made it impossible to dismiss or minimize my feelings as they might have done in private. "When I saw those photos of your trip," my mother said, "you looked so free, so happy. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen you look like that at a family gathering. That broke my heart, Lee. We've failed you." "We're not asking for forgiveness right away," my father added. "We know it will take time to rebuild trust. But we want you to know that we love you, we value you, and we're committed to doing better." I felt tears welling in my eyes. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just needed to stand up for myself. "We know that now," my mother said softly. "And we're proud of you for doing it, even though it was painful for everyone." It took courage. It wasn't a perfect resolution. There were still hurt feelings, misunderstandings to address, patterns to break. Emma refused to see me, still blaming me entirely for her wedding disaster. Mark was cautiously supportive of the family reconciliation attempts, but clearly uncomfortable with the public attention our private matters had received. As for me, I was navigating an entirely new landscape, both personally and professionally. The viral fame had brought opportunities I had never imagined. The potential book deal, speaking engagements about setting boundaries, a significantly expanded platform for my design work. My inbox was filled with messages from people who saw themselves in my story, who had found courage in my choices. 3 months after returning from Bali, I sat in the coffee shop with Jordan, my now official literary agent, discussing the outline for my memoir. "The publishers are excited," he said, sliding a contract across the table. "They believe your story has the potential to help thousands of people recognize and change unhealthy family dynamics." I looked at the contract, still somewhat in disbelief that my personal journey had led here. "And my family? What about protecting them?" Jordan nodded thoughtfully. "That's entirely up to you. You can change names, alter identifying details. This isn't about exposing your family, it's about exploring universal themes through your specific experience." I thought about my parents, who were making genuine efforts to repair our relationship. Weekly family dinners where they asked thoughtful questions about my work. Birthday reminders set in their phones for each family. Member. Small, meaningful gifts that showed they were truly listening when I spoke about my interests. "I'll change the names," I decided, "and work with them on what details to alter. This isn't about revenge. It's about healing, about helping others who feel invisible in their own families." Jordan smiled. "That's why publishers are excited about this project. It's not just another family drama exposé. There's genuine heart and growth here." As I signed the contract, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Just checking in. Hope your meeting goes well. Dad and I are thinking of you. Dinner Sunday?" Such a simple message, yet one that would have been unimaginable 6 months ago. The forgetting of my 30th birthday had sparked a chain of events none of us could have predicted, bringing pain but also transformation. The road ahead with my family wouldn't be perfect, but it would be different. Better. Emma still wasn't speaking to me. Her wedding photos had finally appeared in a local magazine. Not Vogue. And she had made several pointed social media posts about loyalty and family betrayal. But even that felt like progress of a sort, an honest acknowledgement of her feelings rather than the artificial family harmony we had maintained for years. I replied to my mother's text. Meeting went great. Contract signed. See you Sunday. Then I looked up at Jordan. So what happens next? Next, he said with a smile, you tell your story. All of it. The good, the bad, the complicated middle parts that don't fit neatly into hero or villain narratives. You tell the truth as you lived it. And that's exactly what I did. In the year that followed, my life transformed in ways I could never have imagined. My memoir, The Forgotten Birthday, became a New York Times bestseller, resonating with readers around the world who saw their own family dynamics reflected in my story. I received thousands of messages from people who had found the courage to set boundaries, to speak their truth, to choose themselves after reading about my journey. The success brought new challenges. Of course, public speaking engagements forced me to confront my lifelong fear of being seen and heard. Media appearances meant constantly revisiting painful memories. And the persistent question from interviewers, has your sister forgiven you yet? The answer remained no. Emma had doubled down on her narrative of betrayal, even giving a few interviews of her own to set the record straight. In her version, I'd always been jealous, always plotting to undermine her happiness. The Forgotten Birthday was a convenient excuse for my true motivations. Spite and envy. I chose not to engage publicly with her accusations. In private, I sent occasional texts, birthday cards, small peace offerings that went unacknowledged. Our parents found themselves in the uncomfortable position of mediating between us, trying to maintain relationships with both daughters without taking sides. She'll come around, my mother would say during our now regular phone calls. She's still hurting, but she's also proud. Give her time. I wasn't so sure. Some wounds don't heal, some bridges remain burned. I had made peace with that possibility, even as I left the door open for reconciliation. Mark had surprised me by becoming my strongest ally in the family. After initial skepticism, he had read my book and recognized patterns he had been blind to before. I was part of the problem, he admitted over lunch one day. I accepted the attention and didn't notice who was being left out. I'm sorry, Leah. His support meant everything, especially when navigating family gatherings where Emma's absence was a palpable reminder of ongoing tensions. My career had evolved in unexpected ways. I had left my agency job to start my own design studio, specializing in branding for women entrepreneurs. My client list grew rapidly, partly due to my increased visibility, but also because I had finally found my authentic voice as a designer. My work was bolder, more distinctive. No longer constrained by the need to please everyone or fade into the background. I had also begun leading workshops on creative self-expression and boundary setting. Combining my design expertise with the personal growth journey I had documented in my book, these sessions were always fully booked, filled with women and some men who had spent years sublimating their own needs and desires to keep others comfortable. Your story gave me permission to finally stand up for myself, one workshop participant told me, her eyes shining with tears. I've spent my whole life being the good daughter, the understanding wife, accommodating friend. I'm finally learning that being good to others doesn't have to mean being bad to myself. Comments like these made all the pain and public scrutiny worthwhile. If my experience could help even one person break free from unhealthy patterns, it had value beyond my personal healing. 10 months after my book's publication, I received an unexpected email from Robert, Emma's husband. Emma doesn't know I'm reaching out, it began. But I think you should know she's pregnant. 4 months along. It's a girl. She would never admit it, but I think she misses you. She kept your last birthday card in her nightstand drawer. This baby is going to need her aunt. If you're open to it, maybe we could find a way to broker peace. I read the message through tears. A niece. A new life untouched by old hurts and resentments. A reason to try again. To build something new from the ashes of what had burned. I replied carefully, "Congratulations to you both." That's wonderful news. I would love to be part of your daughter's life in whatever way Emma is comfortable with. No pressure, no expectations. Just love. 2 weeks later, I received a text from Emma. Just 3 words. Coffee next week? We met at a neutral location, a quiet cafe halfway between our homes. She was visibly pregnant, radiant despite the obvious tension in her shoulders as she spotted me. The conversation was awkward at first, stilted with formality and careful phrasing. We talked about the pregnancy, about Robert's work, about neutral topics that wouldn't trigger old wounds. But eventually, inevitably, we circled back to what had happened. I read your book, she said finally, stirring her decaf latte. I didn't want to. I was sure it would be full of lies about me, about our family. But Robert bought it, and one day I just picked it up. I waited, heart pounding. It wasn't what I expected, she continued. It was fair. Even kind, in many ways. You didn't make me a villain. You're not a villain, Emma. You're my sister. She looked up, her eyes shining with tears. I didn't realize, Lee. All those years, I didn't see what was happening. How you were being treated differently. Maybe I didn't want to see it because it benefited me. It was the acknowledgement I had never expected to hear, the recognition I had craved for so long. The wedding, she said, her voice breaking slightly. I was so focused on it being perfect, on it being my special day, that I couldn't see past myself. We really did forget your birthday, didn't we? All of us. I nodded, my own eyes filling with tears. You did. I'm sorry, she whispered. Really, truly sorry. Those 3 words, spoken with genuine remorse, began to heal what I had thought might be permanently broken. We talked for hours that day, really talked, about our childhood, about the patterns we had both perpetuated, about the pain and misunderstandings that had shaped our relationship. I don't expect us to be best friends overnight, Emma said as we prepared to leave. There's too much water under the bridge for that. But I don't want my daughter growing up without knowing her aunt. I don't want to hold on to this anger anymore. We hugged goodbye, a careful embrace that acknowledged both the fragility and the potential of our renewed connection. In the months that followed, we rebuilt our relationship step by careful step. Coffee dates that became dinner invitations. Tentative text exchanges that grew into regular phone calls. She asked me to help design the nursery. A gesture of inclusion that meant more than she could know. And when my niece Lily was born on a rainy Tuesday in April, I was one of the first people Emma called. Would you like to come meet her? She asked, her voice tired but happy. At the hospital, Emma handed me the tiny bundle, and as I looked down at Lily's perfect face, I felt the last pieces of resentment melt away. This was family, in all its messy, complicated, beautiful reality. This was worth fighting for, worth forgiving for. I'm your Aunt, Leah, I whispered to the sleeping infant. And I promise your birthday will never, ever be forgotten. Emma laughed softly from the bed. None of our birthdays will ever be forgotten again. Dad's got alerts set up on every device he owns now. It was true. My parents had transformed in ways large and small, making conscious efforts to correct the imbalances of the past. They weren't perfect, none of us were. But they were trying. We all were. 2 years after the birthday that changed everything, I found myself planning a special celebration, not for myself this time, but for my niece's first birthday. Emma and I worked she together on the details, finding a new kind of sisterhood in our collaboration. It's strange, she said as we addressed invitations at my dining table. If you hadn't skipped my wedding, if all of that hadn't happened, we might never have reached this point. We might have just continued in the same old patterns forever. I considered this. Sometimes it takes something dramatic to break unhealthy cycles. I never wanted to hurt you, but I needed to choose myself in that moment. I know that now, she nodded. And honestly, I'm proud of you for doing it, even though it was painful. It took courage. Would you have done the same if our positions were reversed? I asked, curious rather than accusatory. Emma laughed. God, no. I was such a people pleaser back then, especially with the family. I would have swallowed my hurt and shown up with a perfect bridesmaid smile, then complained to Robert about it for the next decade. Her expression grew more serious. But maybe that wouldn't have been healthier, in the long run. Maybe your way, as messy as it was, actually got us to a better place. On the day of Lily's party, our family gathered in my parents' backyard. The tensions of the past not forgotten, but transformed into something manageable, even valuable. The viral fame had faded, as internet sensations always do. My book continued to sell steadily, helping others navigate their own family complexities. I had found my voice, my place, my worth. As we sang, "Happy birthday," to a giggling Lily, my mother caught my eye across the cake and mouthed, "3 months until yours." A simple acknowledgement, a promise that I mattered, that I was seen. Later, as guests began to leave, my father pulled me aside. "I've been thinking," he said, unusually hesitant. "Your book, the talks you've been giving, the people you've helped. It's remarkable, Leah. I know it came from a place of pain that we caused, and I'll always be sorry for that. But I want you to know how proud I am of what you've done with that pain. You've turned it into something meaningful." Coming from my father, a man who had rarely expressed pride in my achievements, these words were a gift beyond measure. "Thanks, Dad," I said simply, squeezing his hand. That evening, as I drove home from the party, I reflected on the journey of the past 2 years. A forgotten birthday had led to a skipped wedding, a viral sensation, a published memoir, a healing family. None of it had been easy. All of it had been necessary. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Ah? Just checking in. How was the party? How are you feeling?" I smiled, typing back. "It was good. Really good. Family is complicated, but worth it." Then I added, "And I've never been better." Turns out choosing yourself doesn't mean losing everyone else. Sometimes it means finding a better way to be together. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed a package on my front porch. Inside was a small, beautifully wrapped gift with a card from Emma. "For the birthday we missed. Better late than never. Love, your sister." The gift was a delicate necklace with 2 intertwined circles, representing our reconnected bond. I put it on immediately, touching the cool metal against my skin, a tangible reminder of how far we had come. My 32nd birthday arrived with a flurry of well wishes from family and friends. My parents sent flowers to my office and took me to dinner at my favorite restaurant. Mark gave me concert tickets to an artist I loved. Emma and Robert invited me for a weekend at their lake house. Alex threw a surprise party with all my closest friends. Each gesture, big and small, carried the same message. You matter. You are seen. You are loved. As I blew out the candles on my cake, surrounded by people who truly celebrated my existence, I didn't make a wish. I didn't need to. Everything I had once wished for recognition, respect, authentic connection had already manifested in ways I could never have predicted. My 30th birthday had come and gone without acknowledgement. My sister's wedding had made headlines for all the wrong reasons. My family had broken, and begun to heal. And I had found, in the midst of pain and public scrutiny, the most important gift of all. The knowledge that I mattered, that my voice deserved to be heard, that choosing myself wasn't selfish but necessary. As I prepared for bed that night, I caught my reflection in the mirror, the necklace gleaming at my throat, and I smiled at the woman looking back at me. Strong. Valued. Chosen by herself first, and now by others. The journey hadn't been what I expected, but it had led exactly where I needed to go. My name is Leah. I'm 32 years old, and this is my story. Not just of a forgotten birthday or a skipped wedding or viral fame, but of finding my voice, setting boundaries, and learning that sometimes the greatest act of love is choosing yourself.